It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping to crying to potty training to choosing a preschool and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the world you might be. Thanks so much for tuning in today, November 11th. 11/11/2015. Happy Veterans Day. I want to say a big thank you to all the wonderful veterans that served our country and are still doing it. Let's celebrate them today and every day. You know what? Applause for them. Honestly, what a tough job. And I'm going to share a story before I welcome my guest that really just kind of touched my heart. I have a wonderful guest this morning and a great show planned. Her name is Katie Hurley. She's a author, a mom, and she's going to talk to us in just a bit about her new book, appropriately titled The Happy Kid Handbook, How to Raise Joyful Children in a Stressful World. I can't wait to talk to her because there is so much stress in our world. And, you know, especially we think about the veterans and the dads and the moms that are deployed. So I can't wait to talk to Katie. But first, a couple things. Recalls, there were not any new recalls this week, but if you go to my website, mybestparentingadvice.com, you will see all the recalls. They are up to date. And as I say every week, if you have something that's been recalled, please don't try to fix it yourself. There's a reason they recall it. I have the phone numbers, the websites, the emails. You know, they will either give you your money back or give you something to fix whatever you had, especially if you get some wonderful hand-me-downs. I mean, we have great resale stores all over the country, and, you know, a lot of the baby toddler equipment is expensive, and, you know, some of the things have been used one or two times, and I love the resale stores. They're great. I've gotten a lot of things in the past for my baby room. So if you do get one, I know our resale stores here, one in particular, make sure nothing is recalled before they accept it. So take a look, mybestparentingadvice.com. And by the way, if you are listening live and you have a question or comment today, you can call the show at 877-864-4869. You know how I love callers. Call us. Just say good morning. And I'm doing a shout out to Maureen, too. Maureen never calls anymore. Call us, Maureen, if you're listening. All my shows are also available 24/7 on TogiNet, iTunes, Stitcher, and, of course, my website, My Best Parenting Advice, as are all the other shows. We have great shows on TogiNet, so you can find the podcast to all of them on toginet.com. So let me share this story because today is Veterans Day, and, you know, we really have to be so grateful. To me, the bravery, it's so scary to leave your family. So this mom wrote, Personalizing Veterans Day, a wife's story of the years after war. In 2004, at just 20 years old, I kissed my husband a little over 1 year goodbye. Watched him sling on his pack and head out to Iraq with all the other Marines. He turned 22 a few weeks earlier, which is when we found out that he would be deploying at the height of the Iraq War. I had no idea if I'd ever see him again, and my heart broke into a million pieces. 9 months passed. They were filled with letters, Skype, FaceTime, and, you know, she said she went months without hearing from him in real time, and it wasn't their first separation. He'd been in boot camp for 3 months and then training for another 4, but that's a little different than being in Iraq during the war. So in 2005, on our second wedding anniversary, he came home. At first, life seemed normal, almost like the war and all he'd seen and done hadn't fazed him. He was in the thick of it with his infantry group, and I was impressed as how easy it was for him to readjust to civilian life. Okay, good story. All of a sudden, the nightmares came when he'd wake up screaming. He started drinking. He jumped every time something popped, swerved at every piece of trash in the road. You know, he was out of the military, so we were offered 10 counseling sessions. Oh, come on, big deal. You know what? That's not enough. Anyway, it's been nearly 8 years since Sam came home. Our life has drastically changed, but it took hitting rock bottom in our marriage more than once for things to get better. I'm not angry at the military or how his trauma was handled. Things have now changed for the better, but the scars and the memories will stay with him forever. But the wife says, I have a deeper understanding of what I see on the news when I look in the faces of the men who fought in all the different wars. I watch as they sob at the stories of the older Marines, especially 90-year-old soldiers retelling their experiences. My husband signed up for this, but he's never expected congratulations or sympathy. And one day we'll tell our daughter about all this, and since Sam's career military now, she'll grow up with the understanding of how this life works. She won't have as much daddy time as she might want, but I pray she sees the positives and the beauty of this life and what Sam does, just not the hardships. And I have to say, that really brought tears to my eyes, because if you're not in it, you don't understand it. And unfortunately, in Arizona, we've had some really bad things happen here with the veterans, and it makes me so angry because, there should be services, there should be jobs, and I don't want to make this a negative because it's Veterans Day, and we're having a parade here in Arizona at 11 o'clock to honor the veterans. So the one thing I do want to say about this, if you need some help, don't be afraid to ask. Don't try to go it on your own. You know what? It's tough, and celebrate each other every day and your children. So I thought I would share that because you don't really realize. Anyway, on a lighter note, let's talk about date night a minute. In my book, Help, My Toddler Came Without Instructions, and Help, My Baby Came Without Instructions, I have chapters called I'm So Tired, But I Love You. And when you have a new baby, or even if you have a toddler, it's tough to go on a date night. So I have a lot of tips on how to do it and stay at home. If you have a little baby, put him or her to bed in the crib, order pizza, and watch Netflix or just fall asleep together on the couch. Something else, and this anybody can do, while you're expecting your baby, moms or dads, go to the store and buy some funny cards, and every once in a while plant them in a funny place. I had one mom say she put a funny card to thank her husband for being such a great dad. This is not a great thing. She put it on the toilet where he picks up the seat. Hopefully it didn't fall in. And he got this funny card. And you know what? I had a dad tell me he put it in mom's breast pump. So when she opened it, there was a card waiting. So there's all different ways to stay connected, have date nights. You don't have to get dressed up and go out. Although it's wonderful, sometimes you're so tired, you just don't want to get out. You can always order takeout. You can always just eat ice cream for dessert with your honey and just enjoy each other, because date night is so important once you have babies and children. Keep that relationship going, and it does take some effort, but it's so important. So I wanted to talk about that because the story reminded me that not all parents are together. And if you do have somebody that's deployed, I don't know how the time works, but if you can FaceTime, whenever you can FaceTime, do it. Just keep the connection going. Also, one more thing before I tell you about my guest. This was pretty funny. New service lets you hire a mom for $40 an hour. Wow, I think moms are worth a lot more than that. Anyway, whether you're 2 or 42, you're never too old to need your mom. No one knows better than Nina Kennelly, who's making a living by hiring out her professional mom skills. She's the founder of the blossoming New York City-based business, Need a Mom. As Rent a Mom, she'll come to you and do everything you need a mom to do. Listen to your breakup woes, iron your shirt, make you coffee, bake you a pecan pie, even edit your resume. She's a 63-year-old mother of 2 adult sons and provides this mother's touch for $40 an hour without judgment. Now, that's a good mom, without judgment. Sometimes we say things. Anyway, while it was in its early stages, it was officially launched a while ago. I guess she had people calling her, and you can laugh all you want about a sweet older lady who will let you pay her to take you shopping at Whole Foods, but there's a reason for this mobile mom service that's taking off. It's a business principle that is as old as time. Supply creates its own demand. In her case, she's offering a highly in-demand service that most grown-ups are too afraid to ask for but so desperately need. So no matter how old you get, or how old you are, we always need that soft place to land with a mom. So, you know what? As cute as the Need a Mom concept may be, it's a big boost for moms everywhere. In the event of returning to the workforce isn't for you, or if you've had too many doors slammed in your face, there's still a glimmer of hope. She's living proof that the world still needs moms more than ever. And people are even willing to pay for the service, so I thought that was pretty awesome for Rent-A-Mom. You know, the best part, I think, is not having any judgment. That really cracked me up because, you know, we moms, when we talk to our kids, we say, yeah, maybe you should have done this or maybe you should have done that. And it's hard not to judge because we want to protect our children. So I thought I would share that today. We're going to break for commercial in just a bit, but let me tell you a little bit about my guest that will be with us. Her name is Katie Hurley. She is a child and adolescent psychotherapist and parenting expert in L.A. Excuse me. Hurley earned her Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Women's Studies from Boston College. Yay, Boston, I went to BU. And her Master of Social Work from University of Pennsylvania. She has extensive training in play therapy. And for 7 years, she worked for the Help Group, a large nonprofit dedicated to children with learning disabilities, autism spectrum disorders, and emotional disturbances. She also has a private practice counseling children, adolescents, and families, and writes for her blog, Practical Parenting. You have to take a look. In addition, she contributes to the Huffington Post. I love the Huffington Post. There's such great things in there. If you haven't looked at that, take a look there too. She also writes for Everyday Family Inc., Moonfry, and All Parenting. And above all, Katie is proud to be called Mommy by Riley, age 7, and Liam, age 5. And I have her book sitting in front of me, and I have so many bookmarks in here because the book is great, The Happy Kid Handbook, How to Raise Joyful Children in a Stressful World. And when we come back from the commercial, we are going to talk about happy children. Do we need to raise happy children? Do they have to be happy all the time? I have so many questions for Katie. I can't wait to talk to her. And you can call us at 877-864 if you have a question or a comment. I love callers. So the music will be up in just a few minutes. And think about it. Do you have happy children? And would you do something different if you could go back? I'm a grandma, and I always think about that. But we can't go back. We just do our best. So we'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Do you ever wonder if you're the only woman who runs errands in her yoga pants so it will look like she went to the gym? Or how about the only mom who feeds her kids raw cookie dough? Or are you the only one who cooks her family cold cereal for dinner? Do you need more laughter and less loudness? More self-love and less self-loathing? More joy and less judgment? You're not alone. Come to the living room, a place where we get comfy, candid, and confident together. Come seeking sanctuary and leave feeling renewed. We're saving a seat for you. Give yourself some living room today.
Finally, a show that supports women who are in the midst of a transition in midlife. The show is Second Wind. Here's what certified coach, author, and host of Second Wind, Joyce Buford, wants you to know.
It's so empowering for women to hear about other women and their accomplishments.
We all need cheerleaders, someone who's on our side.
Second Wind is that program to help women connect with other women, hear other women's stories.
In a stressful world,
Find power in those stories.
learn to discover your passions and joys again. Create the life you want to live to the fullest. Join us for Second Wind with Joyce Buford, Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Central, right here on the TogiNet Radio Network. Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.
the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I would like to welcome my wonderful guest, Katie Hurley. She is a child and adolescent psychotherapist and parenting expert and has written this terrific book called The Happy Kid Handbook, How to Raise Joyful Children in a Stressful World. Katie, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited, and I'm looking at your book because I said before the break I have so many bookmarks in it. I love I love the beginning. Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you, by Dr. Seuss. Know thy child. This book is great. How did this come about? And please share more about you if I skipped anything.
When you were reading my bio, it was funny when you were talking about my things. I constantly like changing, and I write for so many different companies and different organizations. And I also speak. I go around to different schools, and I speak to parents, and sometimes they bring me in to speak to students, too, and talk about stress and how to help kids manage stress and stuff like that. So I love doing that. But I write for PBS parents, and I write for this really cool website called Momtastic, which is it's just this parenting website, and they just have tons of great information. And, if there's any new research on parenting and families and stuff, they're covering it really quickly. So I love working for them because they're just really on top of everything that's happening and changing, and just they're a great source of support, I feel like, for moms and parents as they're navigating the tricky stuff.
Right, I know it's great.
Yeah. And I also write for another site that's similar called mom.me. That's another good one for moms. Just, they cover some of the research, but they also have just a lot of stories about what it's like to be a parent today, because it's different. Well, it's always different, it's always changing, but sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's great, sometimes, some days are wonderful and some days are not, and we're all in the same boat, and sometimes it helps to read something about that and remember that, we're all having ups and downs along this journey. But the book really came about, I credit my husband a lot of the time because, I've been a writer for as long as I can remember, and I used to say to him, I have a book in me, I'm just not sure what it is. And, I spent so much time in my private practice and working for the help group and being a mom and, doing all these various things that it took a while for me to really get going. But one day my kids were toddlers, they were little, and we were upstairs, and the kids were just coming out of the bath, and it was that wonderful witching hour that everybody references where the kids just sort of go bananas right before bed, and moms are tired and don't want kids going bananas right before bed. But he wasn't home. He had been on the road. He's a musician, and he had been on tour, and he actually flew in early that day, and I wasn't expecting him just then, and so he kind of snuck into the house quietly so as not to make the witching hour any worse. But he came in to find me, and I wasn't sure he was standing. I didn't hear him standing there, but he came in to find me doing a breathing exercise with my kids, and I was having them blow up pretend balloons, and my son was only probably 1.5 or 2, so he was, designing them with fire trucks, and my daughter was doing fairies, and we were blowing up the balloons and sending them off to Mimi in Connecticut, and, it really is just a way to teach kids to do deep breathing, to calm down, and all of a sudden he said, that's magic, you've got to tell people about that, and we all went, wow, you're home, It was kind of this funny moment, and later over dinner, he's like, I'm serious, you have all these tricks up your sleeve that from your studies and your practice and, things you've made up and things you've learned along the way. It's like, it's not fair. You got to tell other people because that really could work for people. And I thought, you're right. I mean, I was sort of tapping into my counseling skills and what I would teach a child who's anxious or a child who's stressed. And I was just doing it. Hey, let's do it now to all of us calm down. And it works. And so, I got to writing it, and here we are some years later, and it's out there.
What's your husband's name?
His name is Sean Hurley. He's a bass player.
Yay, Sean Hurley, for telling your wife to do what she should do.
Yeah, I know. He's my biggest cheerleader. He always has been.
That's so good to have him as a cheerleader, and that's great because it's interesting when you said you had a book in you. I have my help books, and I've had them in me for years, and they finally came out one day when a baby came in my infant room, and she had been sleeping in her car seat for 5.5 months, and I went home that night and went, okay, book's coming out.
Yeah.
So it's interesting the way it comes out. So share a little more about the balloon, That sounds really awesome.
It is, and I've taught all my friends, and, people laugh when I'm first describing it, and then they call me and they say, it worked, because a lot of times when kids, parents, there's nothing parents fear more than temper tantrums, because they always happen at the worst time. It's family dinner, you're in the middle of the grocery store, it's always totally an inopportune moment when a kid just blows because they're exhausted and, probably hungry and whatever else. So this breathing exercise that I came up with years ago for I sort of made it up for a very young client who was having a lot of worries for various reasons, and we would do it together. So what I say to the kids is I'll first teach them how to take a deep breath, because the mistake we make as parents is we say, take a deep breath, and then kids start like hyperventilating because they just breathe in and out really quickly because they don't know how to take a deep breath. So I'll teach them to, I'll count to 3 while they breathe in. I'll ask them to hold it while I count to 2, and I'll count to 3 while they breathe out, and I teach them to do that. But then I say, let's pretend we're going to blow up a balloon. And, when you blow up a balloon, you can't blow too hard or it won't inflate. It'll pop right out of your mouth. You have to blow in really slowly. So you have to breathe in, take a really slow deep breath in to fill your lungs, and then you've got to breathe out really slowly into the balloon. And I'll say to them, make a design for your balloon. What color is it? Or does it have a picture on it? Or does it have words on it? And they'll come up with all sorts of designs. We'll pretend to tie a string around it as we're breathing out and relaxing, and I'll say, okay, who do you want to send it to? And we'll blow it off to a friend or a grandparent or whoever, somebody meaningful in their life, and we'll, do 2 or 3 of those. And it's, the research shows that deep breathing is like the single best thing you can teach yourself how to do, because it can help you when you're under stress. It can help you when you're anxious, in a panic. It can help you when you're frustrated. So when kids are having temper tantrums, of course, you have to practice these things when they're calm. When they're in the midst of a tantrum is definitely not the time to teach them something new. But, if you teach it when they're calm, and then you can, in the moment, say, hey, you know what, I get it. You're really upset right now. Can we make some balloons together? And then we'll talk about it later. And, you just kind of, it resets them. It helps just calm down their heart rate. It calms down their feelings.
I just love this. You are so great, because it's interesting. I was at a staff meeting the other day, and we started off with the director saying nobody knows how to take a deep breath or breathe properly. And it's true for everybody. Yes. Boy, if you start with the young ones and teach them how to do that, this is so great. Thank you for sharing that. I just love that.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
So let me ask you a question, because, I deal with the new parents and the toddler parents, and, their biggest thing is, first of all, they don't know how to do things because they've never done it, and that's the way it is. But their biggest fear is that their baby or their toddler is not going to be happy. And, when you have such a little one, because I know you talk about 4-year-olds in the book, when you have such a little one, I always say it's okay. If they cry a little bit, it's okay. But you have to figure out why they're crying. Are they hungry, tired, or are they just having a cranky day, whatever? But talk about being a happy, joyful child. Do they have to be happy all the time? I mean, as parents, they feel so guilty if their child's not happy. And with so many different kinds of parenting lately, there's so much stress about what kind of parent am I going to be, attachment, or free range, and mindful of,
It's very stressful.
It's crazy.
I think on the one hand, information is great, and on the other hand, information is not great, because it's so hard to figure out, where do I begin? That's why I kind of, I don't really believe in parenting theories, and people always laugh when I say that, but because every kid is so different, and you don't know what your child's going to be like until you meet them. I mean, you can make all the blueprints you want of how this is going to go down, but until that child arrives and until you get to know their personality, you don't know how things are going to go. I mean, parenting has always been trial and error, and that's the hard part of it is, we're all sort of winging it to some degree. We're all kind of jumping in and winging it and seeing what works and what doesn't work. I think it's great when people share information and strategies and things that help, because it does take some of the pressure off, even just to have a friend say, hey, I found this pacifier that, my kid wouldn't take any pacifiers, and then I found this one and it really worked. Sometimes that's like a lifeline for another mom, just, all right, I'll try that brand and see if that helps soothe my child. So Information can be good, but kids really at all ages are a mixed bag of emotions. Nobody's happy all the time. I mean, that would be absurd if people would just walk around with a smile all the time. Yeah. I mean, we all have feelings, and even very little kids have feelings. And I think the hard part about little kids is their emotions, by design, because of their brain development, their emotions shift very quickly. So, they're giggling and happy one moment, and then they're screaming their heads off and crying. And it's hard. One of the hardest parts of being a parent is watching your child feel sad and feeling like you can't fix it or you can't help, or watching your child work through frustration. And, you want to fix it because you feel helpless and you want your kids to be happy. But, when we constantly jump in and try to fix everything or soothe everything or smooth everything over, we don't teach kids how to cope with their emotions. And so the long run of that kind of scenario is that they end up not being happy when they're older because they don't know how to cope in the world. I mean, eventually you have to send them out to school, and you have to trust that they're going to be okay, and that even if they have a hard day or a sad day or someone is unkind or a teacher criticizes them a little too much, that they can live with that and they can sit with it and they can get through it, So when they're young, when we take the time to just empower them and also just let them be and let them be sad, when a kid, there's all these different sort of theories on parenting and stuff, and you see some parents who have this strong urge to protect and they're sort of always in it, and then other parents who kind of check out and say, no, shake it off, get over it. I mean, for me, empathic parents are like my favorite kind of parents, the ones who scoop their kid up and say, you skinned your knee and that hurts. And I get that. And you can be sad right now and you can cry because that hurts. That makes a big difference in the life of a child. That teaches a child that, hey, it's all right to feel sad. Like, it's all right to cry in public. It's all right to have emotions.
That reminds me, we're going to break for a commercial in just a few seconds. But you know what? It reminds me of the different, you have your first child and they're so easy. And I hear parents say to me, oh my gosh, I had my second child. They're so different. They're so tough. It's interesting because if you do have an easy first child and the second one is different, and it's not that they're tough, they're just different. So when we come back from the break, I want to talk about the different kinds of personalities, the introvert, the extrovert. What happens if you have two kids that are exact opposite? How do you figure out what to do? Because it's so important. We're all different. Every baby, every person on the planet is different. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk more to Katie Hurley, the author of the Happy Kid Handbook. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh, I need you.
In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Gerasi, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Gerasi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward, with tips, tools, and advice and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Gerasi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Frankie Sense & More. It's like she's got a whole lot of goodness for you with a little bit of sass.
Frankie, did you just say...
She sure did, and not to mention, along with...
Whoops.
Every week, Frankie and a new co-host mix it up with authors, musicians, and interviews with world-changing individuals. Frankie Sense & More. It only makes sense to tune in.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today is 11/11/15. Happy Veterans Day to all the wonderful veterans out there. I am here with my wonderful guest, the Happy Kid Handbook, How to Raise Joyful Children in a Stressful World, written by my guest, Katie Hurley. And before the break, I said when we came back, we're going to talk about the different kinds of children. You know what? Everybody's different. And it's funny, I have a set of twins in my classroom, and they're so different. They're so adorable and so different, and it's great to see. Anyway, Katie, let's talk about the introvert and the extrovert, because the extrovert is like all over the place. The introvert, you know, is as little as they're introverted. They like to stop and look, and you can see them processing. It's so cool to see an introverted child that's just processing.
It is. And, you know, it's funny because a lot of people see introverts as shy. You know, they think, oh, they're just really shy kids. And a lot of introverts don't actually identify as being shy. I was a super introverted, I mean, I still am, but I was a super introverted child. And it wasn't that I was shy. I didn't have trouble making friends. I preferred my best friend and my brother, you know, and I preferred to watch and wait and observe. And I'm still that way. I mean, my mom jokes, I mean, I'm the one at the dinner table who listens. Like, I'll say something when I have something important to say, but I'm definitely the listener, and I'm observing what's happening before I jump in. My sister's the direct opposite of me. She's highly extroverted and the life of the party and very funny and charming and all of that stuff. But kids can be very different. You can have 2-3 kids in your house with very, very different personalities. A lot of kids fall somewhere in the middle, but you know, because the mistake we make is we think, oh, you're either this or you're that. You're either introverted or you're extroverted. But really, it kind of exists on a scale. And there are a lot of kids that meet in that gray middle area, somewhere in between. But you know, the introverted kids are the kind of watch and wait ones. They maybe seem a little bit more clingy at times to mom or dad, or, you know, because they don't like to jump into new things. They like to know what they're getting into. We used to, you know, lovingly refer to my son as a stay-at-home kid when he was in preschool because he knew that he was going to be happy at home playing with his cars. You know, now to go to a birthday party, he wasn't sure if that was going to be great or not, so he would just say, oh, I'll skip it. And that's kind of, he's more, as he gets older, he's jumps into things a little bit more, but he still can be like that, where he knows what he likes, and he likes his routine, and he likes to suss things out before he commits, where our daughter is a little more likely. She's still not highly extroverted, but she's more likely to jump into new situations just to try things for fun. And, you know, extroverted kids are go, go, go. You know, they're always on the go. They're talking all the time. They're doing all the time. The biggest difference is how these kids re-energize. Like introverts, you know, will go to a party and talk and play and have fun, but then they need time alone afterwards to recharge. These are not the kids who can just keep going all day long. They need space, and they need to read a book or play with their toys or, you know, draw or quiet time activities. Like downtime is essential to them. To take away a nap time or a downtime from an introvert is to, you know, send them into battle. They're just, they can't do it. They need that time to recharge, but where extroverts tend to be recharged when they are engaging with people and chatting and talking, and, you know, they draw energy from the people around them.
You know, and it's interesting, like I said, to watch. You know, everybody's different. So what do you do? Let's say you have 2 kids and your introvert doesn't want to do what your extrovert wants to do, because, you know, I've seen parents so many times, it's not that they mean to shame their children, but the introvert doesn't want to try something because they're either fearful it doesn't look like it's going to be fun. And the extrovert is like already swinging on the monkey bars. And, you know, how does a parent handle that with the emotions?
Well, I mean, the best thing that you can do is really talk to your kids about personality and about embracing the fact that everybody is different. You know, if we were all the same, what a boring world we would live in, you know, and we to some degree, we say that because we want to raise kids who care about other people. But then when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, the day-to-day stuff, well, my extroverted kid wants to be at the park right now and my introvert doesn't want to go. I mean, sitting down and having a conversation and saying, I talk to my kids about it all the time. We talk about how our brains work. I mean, even just how we remember information. My son has this very, mathematical, we call him computer brain, like his father. And he's also very musical, and so he memorizes facts and information like it's alarming. I mean, I can ask him the date of the Revolutionary War, which I can't quite remember right now, but he's got it in his brain. But my daughter and I are sort of more dreamy and creative, and, we read a lot and we write a lot, but we'll remember more descriptions, So we just the other day, just for fun, I said, hey, Liam, tell me about George Washington. And he gave me, 5 facts. And then I said to Riley, hey, tell me about George Washington. And she said, well, he had wooden teeth at some point, and his outfits were, she started describing shoulder pads and all the different, and the wig. And we all kind of got a kick out of it. And I said, see, you just have different brains and they work differently. And they're both great. You have a lot of facts in your head. You have a lot of information, detailed information that you remember, and put it all together, and we've got the whole picture, So when kids are sort of at odds with what to do or where to be, they can meet in the middle. And sometimes that means saying to your introverted child, well, it's good to get out and get some fresh air, so let's go to the park, but we'll bring a little notebook and pencil so you can draw if you feel like it. And your brother can, swing from vines or whatever it is that he wants to do. And just, meet in the middle. Teach them how to appreciate one another and how to be together and how to respect each other's preferences. When Liam needs a break from conversation, he will go to his room, and I have to say to Riley, okay, he's gone to his room to play right now. That means you need to find something else to do. You need to give him his Liam time, and when he's ready, he'll come back to you, but he's not ready right now. So, really being honest with kids is the first step to helping them understand who they are and what makes them tick.
How about if we go to the younger kids and they don't want to try something, and then let's go to the next step. You go to the park with your children and you're there with, other mothers that their kids are doing all sorts of things, and your little one just wants to sit on your lap. And the other mothers, sometimes they give you looks and they can't help it, but your child is actually fearful and won't try something because, I'm sure you've seen both realms. The parent will say, it's okay, you can sit with me, or the person will say, oh, come on, try it, and then they'll do it. You'll see a mother go down the slide, and the little 3 or 4-year-old is still petrified and does not want to go on the slide. I don't care if you stand on your head. How do you handle that?
Well, I say to parents all the time, the best gift that you can give your child is the gift of time. There is no rule that a kid has to go down a slide before they're ready or go on a swing before they're ready. I mean, they will eventually learn how to go down the slide and learn how to pump their legs and make themselves swing. We feel kids don't have emotions about this. They're not sitting there worrying about what other people are thinking of them. They're thinking, I just want to sit on mom's lap right now. Parents have big emotions about this stuff because we're worrying, is that mom judging me? Does that mom think my kid is, something's wrong with my child, or that, he's too fearful or whatever? The best thing that you can do for yourself is just say, hey, these are my kids and I know what's best for my kids. And that's the truth. Every mother has that gut instinct and knows what's right for their kids. There's nothing wrong with being at the park and watching for a while. And if you do that, if you give your quiet child the time and space to watch and observe and wait and figure out what looks interesting to them and what looks like it could at some point be fun to them, they will thrive. I mean, my little boy was very much like that as a young child. He would go down the slide, but he didn't, my daughter was swinging, like mad at age 3 on her own. I mean, just practically flipping over the swings. My son probably didn't go on a swing until he was 4.5. He just wasn't interested. He didn't like the motion of it. He didn't like the feeling of it. And even as a baby, as an infant, he did not like to be in the electric swing. I figured that out on the first try, where my daughter would sleep in that thing for hours. I mean, my mom and I used to joke that it was going to one day just fall apart. She loved it so much. He never went in it. And, when we pay attention to those cues from infancy on, we realize, some kids just don't, that's not who they are. And if another parent judges you for it, so be it. We hope that they won't, but your kid, and there's no shame in watching. There's no shame in waiting. We, as Americans, we push children through childhood at an alarming rate right now. They're 3, and we're putting soccer cleats on them and signing them up for soccer tots. 30 years ago, people didn't do this, and every time I do, a radio show or a TV show, or even when I'm speaking to parents, they say, what's the big difference? Why did childhood seem so much easier in the 70s and 80s? Because we weren't being raced to the finish line in the 70s and 80s. First of all these opportunities didn't exist. You couldn't play soccer as a 3-year-old. It didn't exist. But, we also weren't being rushed through by our parents. We were playing. We were outside. We were climbing trees. We were drinking from hoses. We were doing all those nostalgic things that we think back and think, oh, wasn't that magical? Because our parents that's what they did. And now we're pushing kids. We're just, we're trying to get them into sports when they're little. We're putting them in music classes just because they're there. Maybe your kid is sound sensitive right now. That doesn't mean they'll be sound sensitive forever, but maybe as a toddler, your child is sound sensitive. A lot of them are, and maybe music class is really a nightmare for that child. We have to really think about that and not worry about what society is saying to us.
That's so good. Everything that you're saying, your messages are so great. I mean, I love this that Ralph Waldo Emerson said, it is a happy talent to know how to play. And isn't that just what you're saying? The kids don't have time to just play. Like I say so many times, when it's Saturday morning, if you're working parents and they go to preschool, let them stay in their jammies. Let them help you mix the eggs. Let them just sit down and play with their dolls or their cars or whatever they like if you have little ones.
It's true. I mean, even toddlers and stuff, the kids are play deprived right now. And, the unfortunate trend in education is that even preschools are becoming more, quote, academic. So even they're losing some of their playtime. There are school districts that are taking away recess and turning recess into PE. I mean, it just everywhere, every which way kids go, they're being structured and they're being told what to do, and they're not having the opportunity to play. The flip side of it is we're seeing increases in childhood stress, childhood anxiety, childhood depression, and we're wondering, why is this happening? But to me, it just seems very clear that they're play deprived. We're racing them through childhood. Of course, that would be the consequence of it. And, we need to wake up and take back childhood and try to figure out, how we can really help kids thrive instead of trying to help them grow up really quickly. I mean, being a grown-up is not a ton of fun. You got bills to pay. Every time you turn around, something goes wrong in your house that you own and you have to pay for. I mean, there's no shame in letting kids enjoy childhood and slow down.
You know what? I just got it. Let's start a new business with the class. It's going to be an extracurricular activity in the preschools, and it's called Playtime. And that's all they can do. We'll put all the toys, and they can just play. Yeah. Because even in preschool, being in there, the kids do play a lot, but they have like 15 minutes, and then it's time for circle time, and then it's time for whoever's coming in for music or whatever they're doing. I think there ought to be an extracurricular just called play, and that's all they can do. Anyway,
I kept my son out of preschool. He only went 2 years, and even when he only went 2 days a week, and all the parents thought I had gone off the rails around here. I mean, because kids were going 5 days a week, half day preschool, and that sort of was the norm in my neighborhood, and he just went 2 mornings a week. He came home after the second year. He decided he wanted to stay for lunch, so he would come home after lunch. But the first year, he didn't even stay for lunch, so he was only there probably 2.5 hours. And I was grateful. It was a wonderful, playful school, but he thrived. I mean, when he went off to kindergarten, he was already reading because he taught himself to read at home. He was ready.
Katie, I have to interrupt you because we're going to break for commercial. We'll be right back. Okay.
Welcome to Geraldine Tegelov Live, the show that shares with you the secrets of redefining, reinventing, and rebuilding your life. Having pulled herself from the rubble of financial ruin and having gone on to create a highly successful career, Geraldine has become an expert in the art of transformation. She believes that it doesn't matter where you are right now, how overwhelmed you feel, or how impossible the task of turning your life around may seem. You can do it. Stay tuned as metaphysician, international best-selling author, and intuitive Geraldine Tegelov gives you the inner understanding and the outer practical how-to to create your amazing life. Gain a fresh perspective on how to redefine, reinvent, and rebuild your life. Join Geraldine Tegelov live every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the TogiNet Radio Network. This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show, Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com. Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. I cannot believe we're up to the last part of the show today, Baby and Toddler Instructions. If you couldn't listen, well, go on mybestparentingadvice.com, TogiNet.com, iTunes, Stitcher. You can always pull up the podcast, and don't forget to listen to our other great shows on TogiNet.com. I am here with Katie Hurley, the author of the Happy Kid Handbook, How to Raise Joyful Children in a Stressful World. And before the break, we were talking about giving children time to play, because that's the one thing, that's missing. It's so funny because when I talk about this, Katie, I have this mental picture that I'm sure will never go away in my head of me being in kindergarten. The room was dark, and we had a full-size sliding board in our classroom. I mean, this is many, many, many years ago, but, and I always used to play outside, and then we had rocks near us, so we used to climb on, and anyway, that is so much what's missing today. And the other thing I do want to touch on with you, with all the technology, there are great apps, there are great videos, there are great teaching tools with technology. But my number one thing is, if you're going to put your child in front of a screen, sit with them and interact with them. Don't just put them there. You know what? And read a book and ask questions. When you read to them, ask questions. What do you think about this? Or, if they're younger, is this blue? Is this red? What color is this? There's so many teaching moments that can be around playing. Don't you agree?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, play is really the vehicle for how kids learn. I mean, for some reason, we want them to learn in a more academic setting, like from the minute they can talk. But the truth is that play is how they learn. It's how they make sense of words. I mean, they can learn literacy skills through play. They can learn math skills through play. But more importantly, they learn to relate to others, and they bond with their family members and friends, and, social skills, which are hugely important and not necessarily taught so much even at the preschool level anymore. That's something that really comes out of play.
It's so important. Well, before we go on, because I'm going to ask you about what we have in our house to play with, because we have tons of things we don't even realize. But before we talk about that, where can my listeners get your book? And I understand and see on Amazon it's #1.
Yes. It's so exciting, and thank you to everyone who's already bought it. But yes, it is on Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble. I'd love for you to go to your local independent bookstore, if you would, and pick it up there, just because I happen to I love independent bookstores. I think they do great things for our communities. But yeah, it's all those wonderful places you can find it. It's pretty much everywhere.
Also, let me ask you, do you have a favorite parenting tip?
Well, I think my favorite parenting tip is more for the parent than for the kid, but I think that self-care is hugely important for parents. Too often kids come into the world and they have so many needs, and we give them all of our mental and physical energy, and we forget to take care of ourselves. And, to be the parents that they need us to be, we need to care for ourselves. We need to sleep. We need to have me time. We need to have marriage time. We need to have friend time. We need to sort of care for all those things.
That's a great tip, and it's so important. So important, and it's okay, and you don't have to feel guilty if you take me time. Me time is
not at all.
It's like you've gone on vacation. You know that Calgon commercial, Take Me Away, with the bathtub? That's how you feel when you come back from your me time. You know what? Unless you can take that Calgon commercial. So let's talk a little bit about everything we have in our house. I mean, I know being a preschool teacher, you know, everything's a toy. An empty water bottle you can put rice in. You know what?
Yeah.
A empty baby food container you can do something with. What do we have in our houses? Because I know you have tons of things in the back of this book that are just wonderful. Everything you can do, from toddlers to preschoolers to older kids.
Well, I mean, we really have everything. But, you know, I always say to parents, they always say, like, what, you know, especially when I'm talking and doing speeches around the holiday time, well, what's the best new toy for kids, you know, this age or that age? And I always say to parents, you can buy them all the toys they want, but here are the two things that kids love most of all: cardboard boxes and tape. You know, I mean, with cardboard boxes and tape, they can make anything. And, you know, toddlers will, if you have a cardboard box in your house, a toddler will get in it, you know, and be a surprise Jack in the Box. It's like, it's the natural instinct of the child is to, I have to do something with this item. So I always encourage parents to, you know, my kid, I always admit that my house is a mess on a good day. And if you're going to come to my house, you just have to be okay with that. But I always encourage parents to, before you take out the recycling, just let your kids sift through it and get stuff, because something that you think is trash, it really is a treasure to a child. I mean, I save everything, boarding passes from flights, because, you know, maybe they need to take a trip to Africa to see some animals. My kids do that often, so they will dig out old boarding passes and they'll make the couch into a plane, and they'll, you know, you have to let them come up with their ideas, but everything, concert tickets, headphones, you know, water bottles. I one time came downstairs to find that my daughter had taken all the bags of cereal out of the boxes and put those back in the pantry, but then took all the boxes because she was opening a grocery store. So she basically unpacked the pantry, leaving the actual food for me, but she took all of the cases and made up a store, and she had found some coins around the house and given them to her brother so he could have some money to buy stuff. But it's, you know, when you give kids the time and space to play, they will find stuff all over the house and just use it. You know, old clothes, before you donate old clothes, you know, look for things that they might want to dress up in. I mean, kids love to dress up as mom or dad. Yeah.
They love, even little ones. I mean, even little, if you have toddlers 3 and 4, little girls love your purses. Or they love to put their feet in daddy's shoes.
Daddy's shoes, absolutely.
It's so much fun. You know, it's interesting. You reminded me of I had a parent of a 2-year-old in one of my classes, and her little one loved to cook, help her cook. You know, she didn't cook. She was only 2. So she bought her one of the little kitchens that you can buy, but she let her use flour. She actually gave her some flour, and the little girl would come to school sometimes with white in her hair, and I'd say, "Did you put powder in her hair?" And she'd go, "No, she was cooking in her little kitchen." And I thought, that is so great, and that's very brave of you, because flour's slippery when it gets on the floor.
Yeah.
But you know what? They will get messy, and it's okay. Even for a younger baby that is around 1. There's pros and cons about giving your child a drawer in your kitchen, because a kitchen should be off limits. Sometimes it depends how your house is constructed. But, you know, many times to give your child their own bottom drawer with Tupperware and wooden spoons and things that they can play with like that. Little ones love doing that. You know,
they love
pots. Your pots, I remember my kids banging on the metal pots with a spoon. It kind of drove me nuts, but they were having a great time.
Yep. That's music right there.
It is music.
In the eyes of a toddler.
And to go on the high note of technology, the best part, too, is that now we can take videos without getting out an 8mm camera. So when your child is being creative, you can always take videos. And you know what? Little ones love to see themselves.
They sure do. They do. And I always, you know, and even older kids, I always encourage parents, when they need a minute, I say to them, give them your phone and have them make you a how-to video. And, you know, one time my daughter did how to host a fancy dinner party. And she just took my phone and made a whole video about setting the table and getting flowers and placemats and things. It's like, kids love to do that stuff. I mean, we can use technology for good. You know, we can teach them how to use it in a good, healthy way without them just sitting in front of a screen all day.
There's so much that we have in the world that we can do things with. It's wonderful. So let me just go back a second because I'm looking at your book. There's so many things in here, and I just happen to pick this chapter, When Frustration Strikes, When Angry Count 4, When Very Angry Sweat by Mark Twain. So you talk about the paper towel game.
Yes. That's a fun one. Kids, we're always telling kids not to be upset, right? From the minute they start to talk, we tell them to listen and we tell them to not get upset about things. But we tend to minimize their emotions. What seems small to us is actually really big to the mind of a child. So instead of just telling your kid to get over it or not be upset about something or get themselves together, I like to teach them ways to vent out their emotions. And one thing that we do is we just take a bunch of paper towels and we put them in a bowl of water, and you pick one out and you squeeze a little bit of the water out and you yell out whatever's making you mad. I really wanted that toy, and throw the paper towel against we would do it outside on the fence, or against a wall, wherever you don't mind a water splat being, against a window or something. And that helps them sort of vent their frustration verbally, but also it gets that physical, because when kids are frustrated, they have that physical feeling in their gut. They're clenching everything, and they're, it's starting to hurt their muscles and stuff, and that helps them get that negative energy out.
Well, you know what? Whether your child's frustrated, happy, whatever, be next to them, be with them, have fun playtimes every day. You know what, Katie, thank you so much for being on the show. We're at the end of the show. I'm going to have to say goodbye to you. I love ending with another game because you have so many great games and tips in your book. Make sure to buy the Happy Kid Handbook, How to Raise Joyful Children in a Stressful World. And Katie, you have a happy Wednesday, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, so many great tips. And if you look at Katie's book, she's got tips for everything, whether your child's frustrated, whether an introvert, an extrovert. And also she has a chapter about me time, how to take really good care of yourself. So, parenting today has gotten a little too complicated, but it doesn't have to be. So please follow me on Twitter. I have 2 pages on Facebook, My Best Parenting Advice and Baby Instructions. I'm also on Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn. And if you don't know about Periscope, it's part of Twitter. I make short little videos every couple of days with parenting tips. On Periscope, you have to go on Twitter and you have to sign up on Periscope, and you can follow me and lots of other great people. And I always give tips. This week I did a couple scopes in my preschool room to show you what happens in a preschool. So I love that. And also, Audible sponsored my show in October, and you can still go get your free downloadable book at audible.com/parents. So on that note, I'd like to leave you today with some words of wisdom to honor our veterans. War may sometimes be a necessary evil, but no matter how necessary, it's always an evil, never a good. We will not learn how to live together in peace by killing each other's children. That's what Jimmy Carter said. And Maya Angelou said how important it is for us to recognize and celebrate our heroes and sheroes. And finally, as John F. Kennedy said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. So give some extra hugs of gratitude today to everybody. It's Veterans Day. Honor the veterans. Thanks so much for tuning in. I want you all to have a great rest of the week. Next week, I'll have another great guest, so I will see you then. Bye-bye.